we're going to start with just a little bit of reading from our panelists, and then we'll get into questions. And yeah, let's. Yes, we're going to read some poems. 10 minutes. I'll read your bios as you start. So we're starting with you, Les.
Oh, I'm first?
Yes. So we have Les Patin. We're going real French on that. I know he hates it. He's a marketing strategist, co-founder and chief creative officer of Outscape, and poet from New Orleans. His poem, Last Request, A Good Day for Ghost Stories, was a finalist for the 2025 Patty Friedman Prize, and he is a finalist in this year's Saints and Sinners Poetry Competition.
Thank you, Daniel. Yeah, very excited to be here. I still don't know which poem was selected as a finalist for this this competition, so I'm very excited to find out, hopefully at 4 p.m. today. That said, I decided to just read all the ones that I submitted so that we really cover it all. But I will start first with Last Request, A Good Day for Ghost Stories. It's the poem that was a finalist for the Patty Friedman Prize. I think that was 2 years ago now. But it's still one of my favorites, and I don't think I've been able to write something so balanced and cheerful since. So, all right. Last Request. When at last they lay my body down, tell them point my petals toward the sun. I don't just mean upward, the sun is pesky and moves around the sky. Rather, my beloved, I will require turning, morning, noon, and night, to face dawn, midday, and dusk just the same. Yes, that sounds nice, and really, I don't think it's too much to ask after a lifetime of picking where we eat, and really, I'm only teasing, except that I would like to be turned toward the east to face the dawn forever. I'd like to think that in death, I will still be an early bird. And when they lay you next to me, I promise to creep slowly from my coffin each morning and pick you white and yellow wildflowers that grow through cracks in the upended sidewalks. And when you rise, drowsy-eyed from our bed sheets of soil and stone, you can find me, holding the bouquet, beaming proudly from a cupboard window in a coffee shop on the quiet end of the quarter. And we'll float above the Creole cottages like porcelain marionettes hoisted by humidity each summer afternoon. The sudden rainstorms will be our supplication. I'll ask you to dance and we'll twirl into a crescendo of lightning cracks and thunderous applause as revelers run to escape their sins under eaves and balconies. And when the rain subsides and the sun casts the bowing crepe myrtles in a citrus orange glaze, we'll stomp down Rampart Street, arms raised, sending chills deep down the spines of passers-by. And when they turn to look, we'll toss salt in their faces and whip through dirty side streets with a howl. Souls without bodies will embody both mischief and revelry. Phantom hands tossing glass beads in the off-season, or untethering hanging plants from second-story balconies. A hot wind causing an exodus of cockroaches from cracked stone facades, or a murder of crows from sagging rooftops. We'll be apparitions for the drunk and the superstitious, briefly appearing in restaurant windows at the bottom of empty wine glasses, giving the city's ghost stories menacing addendums. Thank you. And now we'll roll into the ones I submitted. They're all over the place, so it's really a gambit of options here. So the first is when a gay buys a cucumber. God created supermarket battlegrounds for anxious abominations, swifting through aisles, steering clear of the ultra-processed and pre-made, gay carts avoiding dairy because God created IBS, gay carts avoiding each other because the gays have all slept together. Belonging is organic among bean sprouts on holier-than-thou produce shelves where we can feel no shame in feeling a cucumber for firmness. And braving the insurmountable strength to make eye contact with an apathetic cashier without blurting, "It's for a salad." A victory lap is the speed walk home with the prize bought purely for the homosexual act of spiraling and tossing in homemade chili oil because trauma salads just taste better, Measured hands whisk furiously into a mixing bowl that reads, "Love wins." Every gay dinner party is a drag race maxi challenge. Its winner takes all the air out of the room. Whoever gets the most exaltations of "girl" gets to be queen. All right. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's. And this next one is making sense of softness. Your lips leave a restless trail in their search back to mine, and once found, a nudging request before tousled curls nestle satisfied in my chest, while the hum of fan noise and distant sirens drift above this still-made bed. I wonder if this is the time that we finally let time linger too long. I'm afraid to pull back these sheets and spook you awake, and in me, this tussle of satisfaction and torment, plus my arm is asleep. And I'm accosted by loneliness, lion-hearted no more than the next man who needs another man or woman or warmth to steal his strength, desperate Samsons and Delilahs, all of us, crumbling pillars, trying to get a grip. But how did you get those words to come out of your mouth the way they do? Lingering on curled lips, spit gathered from playful conviction and an accent lost to the world, you say you should leave before you fall asleep. All right. How am I doing on time? Because I usually fly through everything.
You keep on going.
Okay, cool. This next one is called Low Entropy Time Machine, and it's actually about my mother who passed away during the later years of COVID. And as I was like struggling with her death, I think poetry helped me kind of make sense of a lot of it. So this one is a little bit sadder, but. Last Friday, I asked Google AI to explain entropy to me like I was stupid. It used Lego blocks to explain how low entropy is a finished Lego model and high entropy is like those same Legos scattered in chaos across the room. It's a response I can actually understand because, like, I get Legos and concepts of chaos. And I realized even our bodies are low entropy systems that come together like Legos. Briefly, greater than the sum of our parts, were gathered in attendance on this plane of waves and particles long enough to answer here, and then were gone. I once thought that maybe a better concept of time would help me reach out and touch the light, touch the hem of your garment, get a hold of you, however briefly, or at least arouse hope, or at least defend optimism in the expansiveness, or at least justify just holding my breath. But then I realized that time is just human perception. So while the physicists run off to chase the science of quantum mechanics, the philosophers and the mourners are still left here holding all the questions. For all we know, we can't go back. A backspace doesn't exist, and maybe memory really is the keeper of time. But back there, that's where you're still the loudest mom in the PTA. And you're still in the linoleum kitchen, hand on your hip, talking way too loud on the phone and adding too much Cajun seasoning to fried eggs. You're still ordering strawberry margaritas at the nice restaurants and spilling them down your shirt and chiding yourself in first person. You're still getting stuck in deflating jumpy castles chasing other people's children and tripping over your feet in Walmart parking lots because you were walking too fast and going on road trips on a whim because you trust that you'll find a motel when you get there, and hosting garage sales for anyone who had junk for a garage sale because you like the thrill of bargaining. You're still begging me to take you to Fire Island, and you're still driving your Sonata with the sunroof open, humming Adele songs like they're hymnals. You close your eyes and you belt, "You were just like a song," because it's the only words you know. And sometimes God is a good piano riff on a Sonata speaker. And I return to find you here, and I scrape away the weeds, and I tattoo the sentiments down my arms, and I save the voicemails on a hard drive, and I hold the pieces together long enough just to get a glimpse, a picture of a woman who thrived in chaos. That's what I got.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Next we have Polly Sawabini. is a Palestinian-American writer and organizer based in New Orleans. Since moving to the city in 2010, Polly has been involved in mutual aid and community support, organizing with the Palestinian Youth Movement, co-founding the Ida Support Network, and serving as a member of the Innocence Project New Orleans Community Advocates. Polly's creative work explores questions of God, identity, diasporic grief, and the tenderness of survival. They've performed poetry across New Orleans, including Pillow Talk and the New Orleans Solidarity Storytellers, and remains committed to using language as both a witness and an offering. Polly and her writing partner, Tafar Abu Kamir, are the recipients of the 2025 Antenna Publishing Award. Their forthcoming book of essays and poems, titled TBD, will be published in late 2026.
God, that's a really long bio I gave you. That's my poem.
Glory in it.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to read a couple different pieces today, and I'm excited to share them with you. This piece is called Here's Your Trouble. My whole life, I've wanted to change something about myself, my heart, my height, my belly, my age, my ass, my laugh, my gender. The way I look for my reflection in the eyes of every man I sleep with, the way I keep going home for Christmas, the way I keep calling it home. So when I joke with my friends and say I want to fight God, what I mean to say is I want to figure out where it all went wrong and how to reverse it. I want to be the undoing of everything. To go back to 1969 and tell my mother to stop crossing and uncrossing her legs in class, that the boy whose attention she's seeking is just another form of emptiness, and that heaven awaits her in a pair of stilettos. When I say I want to fight God, I mean anyone who is there that day Arthur Balfour presented his declaration, the day the first soldier walked into Jaffa, or the day my grandfather stepped onto that boat. I want to alter my chromosomes and my inability to sit in silence, want to remove the part of me that's mean to the people I love. I want to lay it out all in front of me and piece it together like a puzzle that forms the image of a flashing neon sign saying, "Here's your trouble," with an arrow pointing to the broken cog. But every time I reach for it, another gear starts turning. My mother crosses her legs again. The soldier opens the gate again. I peel the wrong clothes off the wrong body again. The sign keeps blinking as if the trouble is the electricity itself. This piece is called Punchline. The doctor reaches between my legs and births a bloody brick. "Here's your problem," he says. "Why would you keep this here?" he asks. "I had nowhere else to put it," I sheepishly reply. "And this?" he asks, pulling a string of Christmas lights from my abdomen, bulbs still sputtering, each one trying its best to get along with its neighbor. "Oh, well, I just swallowed those last week," I explain. I don't know what the problem is. Who among us hasn't wanted to slurp down a tight rope? At least mine is a party. At least mine has a little life in it. "And what about this?" he asks, pulling out a block of ice from my chest cavity, my sweet little heart still suspended inside it. I laugh. Hadn't seen it in a while. Forgot it froze. Felt like it was jumping on the bed just last month. "Listen, kid, this isn't funny," the doctor says, which is objectively untrue. "You got problems. This ain't no joke." I remove my sticky props from his gloved hands, throw them into my tote bag. Some people don't appreciate good comedy. I shake my head. It's filled with Pop Rocks. You should have seen what was going to happen next. Marbles standing at attention in my throat, levers protruding from my pores. If he didn't like the setup, he would have hated the punchline. This piece is called Asphalt Knees. In the long, fatherless hours of adolescence, I used to climb out of my bedroom window and onto the burning black roof. Its slant made my legs quiver, but I wanted to know what the weeping willow looked like from above, instead of at its roots, where I'd hop around like a flightless bird, gazing towards the sky, wondering how many branches and legs I could break before I was adored. But like the romance of a nosebleed in the summer, I was always urgent and inconsequential. All that gushing never made it past my chin. Instead, I stood toes to the gutter, shielding my eyes from an apologetic sun, counting the willow's caterpillar tears while I squeezed hot asphalt from my knees. And when the champagne minivan came careening into the driveway, I shone like a trophy atop the old colonial, waiting to be claimed, but the winners never showed. This is my second to last piece. This piece is called Among Other Things. Physical, talk, massage. Every therapist I see says I'm holding too much. I didn't know cake could spoil until I fed myself every day and suddenly my mouth was full of maggots. White coffee, Roman ruins. Please, take me back to Beirut. Spatchcock my body and lay me out over the city. All the old men drinking arak and beautiful women buying time and teenagers smoking shisha by the shore can live beneath me and it will never rain, missiles or otherwise. Even my father can come. Follow-up. Do you want to die for a cause or just to die? Retort. Moot question. This American conditioning makes me grimace. Even my shadow looks away. Listen, this is no time for self-flagellation. There are bodies to bury, limbs to find. In Baalbek, a mother counts fingers and toes for the second time. In New Orleans, I too am losing weight, among other things. We are all running out of blood. Imagine how much of it is the sea. And this is my last piece, and it's a little bit different. It's a bit longer, and for me, like very fun to perform. It's more of a performance than a poem to me. So I'm going to perform now. It's called Donna. Along the only road on the Sunshine Coast, which, as has been repeatedly articulated on its welcome signs and several T-shirts in the tourist shops, is not an island, there is a hand-painted wooden sign in the shape of a heart nailed to a tree. Inelegant black lettering on a streaked red background spell out a single word: Donna. I like to think about Donna and how this simple proclamation of devotion came to be. Maybe Donna's husband, who is boyishly handsome, well into his 50s, in part due to his wily but well-intentioned youthful charm, was fixing a hole in the fence one day and whipped it up using scrap wood and old paint from the shed. He put it up where he knew she'd see it on her way home from work, because on the Sunshine Coast, there is only one way home from anywhere. Maybe it's her birthday or their anniversary. No, it's nicer if it's just because. Maybe their teenage children smile and roll their eyes, slightly embarrassed that their parents still love each other, their relationship the marvel of all their classmates. Maybe Donna sees it and laughs, doesn't even well up, doesn't even stop to take a picture, because this sort of thing happens all the time. Donna gets home and gives her husband a light pat on the bottom, says, "You bad boy." They embrace and discuss what they're going to make for dinner. He's going to grill, and she's going to make a salad, and the kids will bring over friends unannounced, for whom there will be plenty of food. Donna doesn't go to Pilates classes, nor does Donna skip dessert. Donna's got a full bosom and wrinkles around her mouth. She loves good books and bad television and talks to her mother on the phone every Sunday. She goes for long walks with her friends in old shorts and big T-shirts, plucked straight from the laundry, unsure if they belong to her or her husband or her son, never stopping to contemplate their origin. Donna gets into arguments with her teenage daughter, but they never last more than an hour or two. Donna doesn't stay up worrying about things she can't control. Donna doesn't question if she's worth it, never wonders if she's too much or not enough. Donna loves surprises. Donna doesn't let the news consume her, doesn't cry for a country she's never known. She doesn't have illnesses they can't solve or urges she can't understand. The only pills Donna takes are women's multivitamins. Donna doesn't wake in the middle of the night reaching for a body she was never given, doesn't negotiate with the mirror on the shape of herself. Donna's friends stick around. Donna has never put a cigarette out on her own arm, has never looked up how much Xanax it would take to kill her. Donna has never rolled herself under the bed to hide from her father's voice, doesn't envision driving her car off that singular fucking road. Donna is an excellent dancer. Donna is the name on the sign and not the nail in the tree.
Next, we have Rickey Laurentiis, who was born and raised in New Orleans. Boy with Thorn, her debut book, won the Cave Canem Poetry Prize, the Levis Reading Prize, and was a finalist for the Kate Tufts Discovery Award. Her poems have appeared in The New Yorker, New Republic, The New York Times, Poetry, and other journals. Her second book, Death of the First Idea, published this year by Knopf, was longlisted for the National Book Award, nominated for a NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Literary Work Poetry, finalist for the National Books Critics Circle Award, as well as a Lambda Literary Award for Transgender Poetry. Rickey Laurentiis.
I'm gonna read 2 poems from the first book and then 2 or 3 poems from the second book. The first poem is called Conditions for a Southern Gothic. Therefore my head was kingless. I was a head alone, moaning in a wet black field. I was like any of those deserted slaves whose graves are just the pikes raised for their heads, reshackled, blue and plain as fear. All night I whistled at the sky that mocked me, that fluently changed its grammar as if to match desire in my eye. My freedom is possible, it said. As if my torn-off head in that bed swamped and whelming them with water had one wish, and it did, to think stranger stuff, to break that boring need to always have a shadow trail its maker such that 1, the shadow snaps, rising to kiss the head. 2, the kiss lands, the head flies up in airy revolt. 3, cracked from the head come the crows of its thinking. 4, 3 crows move in minstrelsy against the night. 5, and the head still singing, last night a Negro was asked. Who among us was made to scratch a myth? Speak. If God made us in his image, it was the first failure of the imagination. And this one I'm reading, I just feel compelled to read it due to some things happening in the world. It mentions some specific places, but you can expand it to even America these days. It's called I Saw, I Dreamt 2 Men. I saw, I dreamt 2 men hoisted up, not American, the rope not closed on their breathing, but this rope tied them spine to spine, somehow suspended from the mood of a tree. Not American, they were African, Ugandan, Nigerian, without a license, a right to touch the sin their touching incites. And I heard their names called out, revision or die, and you must repent, and forget the lie, you lily boys, you faggots, called up from the mob of their mothers, their fathers with Christ in the blood, who had Christ in the blood, who sung out, abide with me. This was my eyes' closed-eyed vision. This is what a darkness makes. And how did I move from that distance to intimacy? So close I could see the 4 soles of their feet. So close I was kneeled, could lick those feet, as if I was because I became the fire who abided. I saw that, I dreamt their black skin made blacker by my feeding. I thought, Christ, why did I think their black skin tipped blacker by this American feeding? But just one shot up a cry. African, it was American. Oh Lord, abide with me. It was human, lusty, flat. You had to be in the hollow of it to taste it. You had to see how in such lack invention takes hold. They say some dreams come in the moment of waking, stitched because daylight likes a story, that some dreams are extensions of an itch, thief walking the quarrel of the brain. I say, but I did feel that one blue mouth blow out as I felt the mood of that tree. As I saw the other turn away, apart to stay with silence, I stayed with southern silence. Beautiful bottom, beautiful shame. The way he writhed beneath the other man argued his loneliness. But he wasn't just a blank measure waiting to sound. However much an O his mouth made, he wasn't just an O, thrusting back, up, against what is almost like a finger, though it isn't, always needing to be touched like a finger, to be held. I'm lonely. My waist cinched inward like some vintage Japanese fan, the clever blade of my back working inch by inch toward a pleasure half mine, the way fire pleases, wax pleases. What does possession mean? No, really, tell me, that at this moment someone beside myself can feel how many times I shudder. Asked if I like it, I like it. I speak out those 3 syllables, mess myself. The point is, I think to empty, it feels good. To be two men, no, two bodies interlocked in a sentence still forming. We dance the dance that says, I want you, come closer, come in me. No, really, he said it's a whisper, boy, you want to be possessed. Because you see, he'd been removed from his body then, per usual. His beauty like a talisman offered, his woundedness revealed. Just maybe two more. This is called Girl Going Boy Coming Back to Girl Going Woman. And it mentions a Natasha, and I'm meaning Natasha Trethewey, the Pulitzer Prize winning Natasha Trethewey. Tain't one and tain't the other, or something like Natasha said. And I'm guessing she didn't mean me. X going XY coming back for another X. Maybe did. Supposing we must always be enwombed in one's mind's idea of sex, that idea of ourselves cautioned in our mother's DNA, might a lady person be permitted to change her mind? We can go back, go the other way, I say, all switch figure, and why not? So mama, let my body through, because science, medicine, because I told me to. Yes, but the help of a society are needs, not construct. Gender is a social contract, a laugh shared between different embodiments. If the mind alone can make the trans decision, it still needs a body's help. Then I could be my own Costas painting, discerning mythy genders over mythy race. Then I would lend a painting's lighted beauty out to the society of the body, where worlds blend and negotiate to their component heirs. You can get there from here, though there's no going back, Natasha said. Poem, let me go home, though to that early circle, cell, circuit where there isn't contest, and but be the seed of a girl. Whatever chromo vetoes it is no god nor ood. I am who I become and always been, feckin' in the belly, original girlhood. Maybe two more poems. This one is a New Orleans poem. It's also a true story. You'll see why. Looking at St. Louis Cathedral, 1788 first great New Orleans fire. Oh, the white sight of it splintered my sight, something sweet, other eye Gothic, for the mind recalls the slave block raised behind her a century of doubloons ago. My mind can't forget traffic of the swart Afrique despite its sterling beauty. I take my time though, getting back to its tarot and lesser arrows coming from pink Algiers across the river, now lazing on a white college friend's wide porch, soon not, and with my best face painted right on, and fam, I shall want without shame. Swim, fly, I aim to down the freakish muddy divisions gap between mystery and obscene, love and loss, the five pleasures, the two sisters, use and claim, man and woman. So I want to eat the cathedral up as I look at it, stave it past my mouth, hook it, its image like to the gushy, pushy heart. Shame wants that, like the fetish holds news. Since what else is there? Chainmail, some blood, thigh. Ain't it wrong such sweet aesthetics come sometimes costly with ghostly appetites? Why do this beauty what I want of love? But history's glut, ain't I likely made, yeah? Too stunning for love, that's what all men sneak and say I attract too severely, and just siren eyes, just getting juice of. So a freak, blank, nasty desire now blackens my look. Now I'm gentler's aim, and so I ask, why is the cathedral so blindingly at noon white when fact is that slaves' dark capitalism had it raised? Who burnt it down? Who raised it up again, Spanish right by soot? And but why must I adore it? James back. When I sat on top of him, my panties a trace deep pink, ass fat, thighs straddling his pelvis such way we made across our eyes gloss and make fairer, still godly, darkish changes, that he came, a most terrific seizure, that he stuttered like rain on lace, love me, a voice cried, the sads came after, and only from looking at my face. It's true. Just the face got him. And I'm going to end with a lovely poem. The title I borrow from Audre Lorde. You should all recognize it. It's called Use of the Erotic. And it begins with an epigraph from James Baldwin. I want to be an honest man and a good writer. I like the red that hides itself coy in a library quickie, through pages that mahogany hold, and I love the skin mahogany. I like the specifically wet pink of my lips before a kiss or after biting them, anytime I'm thinking or nearness ends. I like the even way such ignorals quick, like brown eyes turn to honey in excess sun. I like the way the dark and twists itself to oberuberous and indigo, the crusher snake, in someone's possible being there, a being also in the room beside you, not for scare but care of you, and I like a look of agony. Except some way East Asia hair sheens to carmine blue and cobalt averno, I like that too. I like the hue of my hips. A hint is just most any saint with a hint of ghosts, like how in the selfie to the right, I only see the charred ghost particulars of his face smiling to see me. I like to see me. I like to be too kinky, and thinking about the varicolored smell of just cut grass and the better tale of it after it rains. I like to like the things and people and blush and have designs for and go, oh Lord, and appetites, and be resigned to the crush of this power and to trust it feels good. It's information, a fat color, quarantine, the weather of a new hungry sun. I like to say aubergine over eggplant and negro over negro. I like a dick that stands right up at attention and points its mention, its being hard, very to the one it sees adore. I mean, I really like it. 8 inches, Mr. Dark, and the hum of that seeing drum of a door, which is the color of his head, both heads, thinking, an easy brown, a snare, a truffle, and weird luck. I really like to fuck. I like the color swear worlds make fractals in my mind, and it's a shame cotton fields are so pretty, a very haute green. I like the color wags and a Puerto Rican flag stood up in every window that of course ain't Puerto Rico, and the literal black when it's closed on my skin, which isn't the literal black, Vanta black, but something like mahogany again, lost of its darkness, which I love, and the creepy yellow melody replaces my face. I like that. I like to spell Hawaii like it's spelled, and I like a yellow halo more than any yellow dress, though it make men fall clean off their bikes. I like a good fight, and any yellow yes sworn from the better goddess returned from hell. I would like to be so honest and good and a good writer without this being man and indigo soul and the quieter arts and men like windmills blurring. So Petrucker is a word that felt gray to me, not gray. I like that. I hear that like I like my syntax. So Oshun is a name that feels bronze to me, which is the better call of my skin, though I know here is ignoring gold. I like the way sounds do come themselves like crying do, that second ejaculate, that they become their colors, immaculate colors come their words. And I like the color flying almost of any bird. I love this world. I love this world.
And finally, we have Brad Richard. He is the author of 4 books, including Turned Earth, Motion Studies. 5 books, sorry. Motion Studies, Butcher Sugar, and Parasite Kingdom. And after many years of high school and college teaching, he is now primarily a freelance teacher and editor, series editor of the Hilary Tam Capital Collection. From the word works, he lives, writes, and gardens in New Orleans. More at Brad Richard with a D .org.
Thank you. So I'm thinking about my parents this morning, and I'm thinking about the oranges of my voice. So it's kind of going to be the theme here. So I'm going to read a sonnet crown from Turned Earth, and if there's time, I've got one shorter poem about my dad. My mother died in 2015, rather suddenly, and in going through her things, I found writings of hers that I didn't think existed anymore. This was kind of a shock. And I tried dealing with that material for a long time. It finally resulted in this sonnet crown. I quote a lot from Mom's words. I'll be using air quotes for that. She also revised herself, so I'll be using an air slash mark for that. Matrilineation, homage to Nell Parker, 1944 to 2015, 1. I'm trying to imagine you imagining me finding at the bottom of a plastic storage bin, under clippings from your daily camera column, under stray snapshots of family I never knew, under rust-stained doilies and your baby shoes, your life spread out around me on the floor, this folder, confidential materials enclosed, your poems, I was what, 11? You took them out to read to me, then burst into tears, ran to your study, left them splayed beside me on the window seat, summer light fresh as your mother's death that spring. Imagine me finding your words, losing mine. I know the typeface, that old royal you gave me, and a mind that seeks with words to say these thoughts, too. A mind that seeks with words to say these thoughts that wander as in a maze. I hear your heart, iambic, broken, rhythm remains. At your memorial in the Methodist Church basement, I read a few of yours aloud, should have stopped myself from adding Williams, Dickinson, one of my own. Suited, I sweated. Your brother wore a Marine's tee. Stories he told me, wild teenage you sneaking out all night, then dating my dad. Stories your poems from your second marriage tell. There was a woman who acted like a wife. I'd write you a love poem if I could. Instead, I've cleaned the house. I'd write a poem that tells all the thoughts I have to share, but rather put a clean ashtray by your favorite chair. 3. You put a clean ashtray by your favorite chair, read true crime, ignored the phone, smoked. 3 marriages left you happiest alone. The last leached your pension, but you reclaimed your name. Were 30 cats too many? On my visits, their reek choked my sleep. Sleepless, you ordered gems from jewelry TV to hoard in dresser drawers. Appraised, fake. I found baskets of handed-down kids' clothes you'd laundered for the next needy family. Checks to the marked messenger to cover Catfish Hut's ads when the owner's granddaughter was sick. Regrets? None, you said, but I'd write a poem if only I could say words that won't come out. Instead, I chafe and tease, knowing you know what I mean. For I chafe and tease. I learn what you mean, heartsick from what you learned in the edits. And I'll read a whole poem of hers. Sometimes I think I'd like to be a spy and hide behind trees and catch 40 thieves. Sometimes I'd rather be a star of Broadway shows and buy my clothes at a bazaar. I've wanted to be so many things, sought after by kings. And when I've thought of these, I've been them in dreams, and really it seems that it's nice to be me. And really, it seems that there's no future in it. 5. And really, what future is there but this parsing of our past? 13 sheets of typing paper, 8.5 by 11, 6 by 9, most dated May 1975. Alone in a house deep in Alabama pines, your husband away for work in Birmingham, you used what you had. Grief left you time. Clatter of keys all morning, a walk in the yard, weeding the garden where you heard a toad setting up shop by the tomato plants, and hurried back inside to write it. Dad dropped me off in June for the summer. You came out of your study, gathered your poems, shut this folder I hold. I can't. Maybe I read too much. Mother always said so. She's gone now, so I can't ask her why. 6, you're gone now. And now? I can't ask why you wrote confidential materials enclosed across this folder like a spell to let you forget her, the one who wrote. I can guess which poem you drafted last. Scarred with strike-throughs, felt tip over typescript. What is it? What's wrong? I scream but make no sound. Talk with me, touch me. I could tell you things, Why the search for Mr. Goodbar? A plug for the emptiness. Let us pray. Watch the fruit fall in on itself. You had to leave her there with me on that window seat while you wept in your study. You had to go on with yet without her. She was yet was not my mother. Years later, that line of mine you said you kept rereading. To be is yet to be imagined. 7. You said you kept rereading, to be is yet to be imagined. Words that now come to me as if they were yours. Our words, together, apart from us themselves. Complete within itself, my soul becomes involved with trees, reaching silently toward the sun. It's sunset. It's my birthday. I love sunset and spending my birthday riding all day and never having more than coffee gone cold, an open dictionary, these trees going bare. I know the dishes are stacking themselves in the kitchen, but look, the berries are turning dark. Let's go watch them. This is me, imagining you, imagining me. And I'll squeeze in one more quickly here. Thank you. So this is from Motion Studies, which is my art and disaster book. And I'm going to read a section from a long series in here called Motion Studies. My father lives in Gentilly. He lost his house and studio in Katrina. My father's studio, 2005. As if browsing in a gallery, I flipped through canvases leaning against the wall behind my father's studio. A clear October day, the air breezeless, birdless. Silence still cloys like oily mud, 2 months since the flood. The studio's siding sags, the back door won't close. I look in. Heaps of clothes rotting, shelves of LPs, their jackets fused, some swollen books, and further back in muck and shadow, 40 years of work my father made, and catalogs, and slides, and reviews. I step back into the sunlight, look through the canvases again, remember my father working on them. And time unravels, and I see myself doing the things a ghost does, shuffling inside the narrow frame of a world of ruined images. Yes, I remember those paintings. They were good. And I remind myself, he's already repainting them. They're still good. Stop acting like a ghost.
Let's have another round of applause for our panelists for their wonderful poems and this feast of flavors that we get. Honestly, this whole panel is just me being conniving and so I can hear all your wonderful work and that all you can hear each other, which is, I think, a central part, of community making, queer literary community making. And this is, Saints and Sinners LGBTQ Literary Festival. And so I'm curious, how important is participating in a queer literary community or being in community with other queer poets, and like how important is that to you, or how important has that been for you along your career?
I remember in my MFA workshop, and this would have been 1991, and my first conference with one of my teachers, and I had submitted a poem that was gay-ish, a little bit, and he expressed surprise at, this is what this is about. Oh, really? Wow. Oh, do you know this Auden poem, Lullaby? Which of course I did. And Yeah, so finding queer community has been important for me as a writer to feel like I can be who I am in my poems, you know? There's a whole lot more I could say, but I'm gonna let other people.
We could circle back.
I think, yeah, I think to that point, most of my poetry work and career has been with other queer people. But when I do think back to in college, I had a similar experience where actually the teacher was pulling out some gay themes out of something that was a poem about my brother. And I was like, this is, I know. And I was like, there is nothing queer about this except for me. And so, there were moments of that then, and I was like, it was just nice to kind of find a community that kind of, can uplift it and get it and fully be there for you.
I think for me, I've been writing for a long time, most of my life, and I think my first writings came out secretly, Emily Dickinson-like, just writing to myself or to my imaginary whatever. I've always been embarrassed by my talent, which feels queer. I don't know how to explain that otherwise. And so it became, and it was important when I arrived at, I guess what I would call my first career point, which was Cave Canem. And I remember Dante Michaud was one of the administrators that year, and he organized it in such a way that all of my roommates, all of the dorm mates were queer, and then all the straight people were somewhere else. So, with that beginning, with that origin, I am happy to say that I was able to take it for granted that I had a queer community from the very start of my professional life. But there was a moment before that when I was a child into a teenager where I was by myself, just writing this alone to understand what I would later realize was queer becoming, and what I would even further realize was trans becoming. So it's really important to me, and it's important that I keep it. I want it to remain a taken for granted thing. I want to look around and that there's someone queer, and so I've been blessed to have that in some respects, but it's also been a challenge to maintain that, especially as I returned back home to the South, to New Orleans, which is a queer city, and not. And so, you know what I mean? Like, it's queer, it's gay, and not. And so, it's very important that I strive to maintain that.
Yeah, I think I've had a really similar experience to you. And I've written my whole life, but I was never really comfortable sharing it with other people. And then, there are these queer literary nights that my friends were putting on, and I got up to read, and the first poem I actually read was Donna. And it kind of like opened this door for me to feel more comfortable. But it wasn't really so much just talking about my queerness that I needed to feel comfortable with. It was talking about my like big feelings. And I found and continue to find that like in a room of queer people who have worked through a lot of like self-discovery and growth and identity, regardless of whether or not we're talking about like our actual sexuality or our gender identity, we're talking about this kind of like larger experience in our bodies and the way that we connect to other people. And so I've felt like reading my poetry in front of like a room of all straight people like makes me like really nervous and kind of nauseous, but not because I'm like scared of what they'll think. It's just like I feel like they won't relate, and that's not really fair to all straight people. I'm specifically thinking a room of like my brothers like over and over again, and I'm like, yeah, they're not gonna get it. But I just feel like in a lot of my queer community, I am able to express myself in a way that previously I maybe was embarrassed by or was like a little shameful to be feeling so intensely.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a big part of like being in community is having that kind of affirmation by your community that says, your work is meaningful and impactful. I'm curious if everyone on the panel would share that moment or a moment in your memory where maybe it was an acceptance of your first book or your first poem in print where you thought, bitch, I'm a motherfucking poet? Like that joy. Would you share a memory?
I don't think it was just one consolidated moment. I remember, so I said I wrote a lot to myself and to my imaginary whatevers, but I also wrote to my mother a lot. Maybe the poems weren't addressed to her, but I would make these little small chapbooks and give it to her. And so we began a relationship, a kind of collaboration in a sense that way. And so I was lucky to have, if it was up to my mother, I would have been published at 3 years old, and I would have been, but I was the one being like, no, patient, wait. And good, it worked out, but I think I've had, it's like popcorn, I've had like a couple of moments that accrued to this moment where I was like, I am a poet, God forbid, and God help me. It wasn't just one moment that happened. So yeah, I'll leave it there.
So my first book, Habitations, came out in 2000, and it's not a very overtly queer book at all. And it was published by a little teeny tiny press here. And then I'm like, struggling along, writing, doing whatever, trying to get work out there. And a friend of mine was like, there's this Poets and Writers Exchange competition. You should really enter because Louisiana is the state they're focusing on. And so I entered begrudgingly. It's like, I hate entering contests. And I won. And the judge was Reginald Shepard.
Wow.
And that was life-changing because I got to meet Reginald, and then we became pretty close friends up until his death. And it was so interesting because Reginald and I were almost the same age, but he was really a mentor to me in so many ways. And it was life-changing to have that connection and to feel through Reginald and other people I met, sort of because of that award and because of Reginald, connected to a queer writing literary legacy that I was so excited to feel like I was really part of. Yeah, I think I'll just leave it at that for now.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if I've had that moment of like, bitch, I'm a poet. But I've definitely had that moment of like, bitch, this is who I am. Like, whatever's going on, it's who I am. And I think that writing and reading poetry and getting like more attention for it or more like praise for it, I definitely still have like intense imposter syndrome, the way that you write something and you're like, oh, this is the best thing I've ever written, and then you read it the next day and you're like, this is the worst poem anyone's ever written in their entire lives.
The opposite.
Yeah.
Like it's when I'm writing and
Yeah.
I hate this, the next
Yeah.
day I'm like, okay, well that's not too bad.
Yeah. Or I like get a little drunk and read my
Yeah,
poems and I'm
yeah.
like, you're incredible.
Yeah.
But I do think that writing and reciting poetry in this way is one of the first things where like my imposter syndrome, if that like happens, doesn't really matter because it is just so like, it is what it is. Like, this is what I'm writing. This is what I have to do. Like, it is the absolute most right thing for me, even if it sucks on some days, And so I don't know. Yeah. Like I said, like, it's not like, bitch, I'm a poet. It's like, oh, cool. I'm like more myself and this is who I am, bitch. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think for me too, it's poetry for a long time was just how I made sense of the world, and it helped me kind of bridge a lot of gaps in my own thinking for things, and so that really was kind of just what I was doing, and then I think it was when I was introduced to a poet who kind of dragged me kicking and screaming out of the darkness into the poetry community that I started to actually feel like I was a poet. And of course, I'm talking about Daniel. He dragged me kicking and screaming. But I think that, yeah, like there have been like little moments that have kind of reaffirmed that for me, being a finalist and in one of those competitions, was a moment for me, but also like I think there were moments where I would get down on myself or something, and of course Daniel again would be like, he would say, "Bitch, you're a poet," and that was really what solidified it for me.
Your famous tagline now.
I'm okay with that. Ostensibly, this panel is about reaching audiences, so which begs the question, and I find it curious that I think poets don't actually ask themselves this question, which is, who are you writing for?
Man, I texted a friend the other day and I said, hey, she's a great artist, I said, when you make something really good, who do you show it to first? Like, who do you want to show it to? Because I just wrote this poem that I really loved. It was the Asphalt Knees. And I realized the person I want to show it to was myself when I was a teenager standing on my roof, And I was like, nobody else, nobody knows what I'm talking about as much as I do. And so, which I now is, hearing say aloud. But I'm writing for past versions of myself most of the time.
I feel like sometimes I see younger poets writing for editors, which is fine. I mean, it's like it's a way to give yourself standards that you're trying to reach or whatever, but it can also do weird things to your sense of who you are as a writer. The longer I've been doing it, and I have to say, I know I'm speaking from a place of privilege, having published as long as I have, and I'm with a good press. I'm really honored, but I have to write what I have to write, like what I must write and what is mine to write. And then, kind of like you were saying, it's like, if I don't do it for me,
I'm the only person who gets it.
Exactly, yeah. So.
Ditto. But I'm just going to say this. I think it kind of relates. I remember, I actively remember the difference, even to this moment, between writing before my first book and then writing in the interim between my first and second book. And the first book, or right before I even knew I had a book, I would definitely say I was writing with and to myself. And then that community that I found at Cave Canem, in a sense, not directly like, this is for you, Philip Williams, but I want Philip E. Williams to read it. But that changed. Something switched after, like in that interim, and it had to do with audience, and it was still an anonymous audience. I didn't know who would be my readership, but I had awareness that I had a readership, and so that changed my relationship to the poem. For better or for worse. Some parts of it was a lot of doubt, a lot of anxiety came with that, but some parts of that was, maybe it's the bitch I'm a poet. Like, I know when the second book comes, someone will read it. And I think about my younger self, and I'm so amazed because my younger self couldn't have imagined where I have landed. So I still think that I think with each poem, each book, I am kind of drafting or creating this one ideal reader. And I really hope that people who admire me will travel with me through my career to see that person come to life. And she's queer, she's trans, that's what I'm doing. I'm creating one person, and I want that person to just be in love with themselves. I just want them to excel, and so, that's what I'm up to. So I don't know if that's great or good, but that's what I'm doing. So.
Yeah, I think that for me, it's always been myself, but originally, I think that like I said earlier, I wrote poetry to make sense of the world and make sense of things, and I think I was going through, the grief of losing my mother, and I was very into figuring out existentialism, is that right? Yeah. But then I got on Lexapro, and so now I am more writing just to explore the world, and it's a little bit of a shift, and I think I'm still negotiating that with myself and with my poetry, because it helped me through that mountain of grief, and it helped me through all those existentialist questions that comes from, I lost my mom and my dad, and I was, moving back from New York after COVID, and it was just a lot. And so now I feel like I'm in a new chapter, I guess, with the poetry and figuring that out. And I think it's exciting because it's not as sad as it once was.
For sure. I mean, you're here. That should be an affirmation that you have an audience, right? That people are interested in your work. What have been your strategies in engaging that audience to keep coming back to you? And it could be social media, obviously. It could be marketing. It could also, of course, be publishing. Like how are you kind of going about that? I'd like for you to share, how you've been intentional about finding people to hear you.
I can begin. This might sound weird, but there's a 10-year gap between my two books. So one of the ways, and I had this in mind, was to go away, was to allow people to miss me, was to let people wonder what I'm up to. And I think that is lost. I think that's not, or at least it's not something valued, I think, necessarily in our culture that is so obsessed with this, so obsessed with social media, which is just another excuse to advertise yourself and brand yourself. And I don't have any issue with that. But I also think it's important to go into the dark and let another person come into the light while you are processing. Well, during that 10-year span, I transitioned, so a lot did change with me, and a lot stayed the same. So just to offer that in the beginning, like I guess that had to do with trust. I just said, I'm not going to be the poet who writes, like Carl Phillips is mentoring me. He pumps out another book every 2 years. I knew that wasn't going to be me. I'm not Mariah Carey. I can't do that. I'm more Sade. We love Sade. We are begging for another album, right? But we also love Mariah, right? And so just to balance those two things, I think, is something I've kept in mind.
Give them hunger.
Yes. Be hungry for me, baby.
I mean, I work in marketing by day, and there's a lot of things that I've tried here and there with poetry. Poetry's difficult because you got to try to find kind of the medium that it's going to work in, and find the way in which it's going to work in that medium. And that's been something new that I've been struggling with just in my day-to-day work, because algorithms, of course, are changing, and if you want to play, you have to play the game, and it's a pain in the ass, but it's the name of the game these days. And so I think that it's really, for me, it's putting something out there and then learning from it, and then just trying to take those learnings and turn it into something a little bit better at each time you go. Because there's no like silver bullet, and it's really difficult to do social media, for example, in for any subject at this point. But I do think back about, like, I am curious lately. I've been thinking about this. There was a poet. I think he was a slam poet, and he was on YouTube in like the early 2000s. And he had all these videos that used to just go viral all the time. And I'm like, is YouTube now kind of like a lost art in social media for poets? Is it something that we can kind of explore to bring back in a way? Just a thought, but as I was thinking about mediums, I was thinking maybe YouTube's a way to go for us.
I'm very sustained by community, so like being at this festival always means a lot. And I just feel really fortunate in New Orleans that there are like all these little overlapping poetry communities that I get to take part in. I've been in the same workshop group for almost 30 years. So things like that are great. But beyond the local part, I've been an editor now for the WordWorks for going on 10 years, and that has kind of widened my sense of community in other ways. So I think just doing literary citizenship helps. I'm also really terrible at all the marketing elements. So if I don't make those kinds of community connections, often I'll just miss out on opportunities. So.
And if I can jump in, maybe to your point, community is potentially a really strong way to go, for marketing yourself. Maybe that is the marketing,
Just showing up.
I like that you put together this panel of people in a range in their careers, and I would say that I'm probably the earliest in my career. I'm definitely the earliest in my career here, and me? Oh.
No, less earlier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you're talking about marketing and things. This is what I'm trying to say: is that I'm still in the stage where I am. The idea of marketing my work is so terrifying to me. The idea of even I have a private poetry Instagram. The idea of one of my crushes reading a poem, I'm still
I
trying to
love
get
it.
past that.
I want them to.
Yeah, and I want to talk to you
8
after
inches.
because I really like
want
that
them to
about
know.
you. Maybe I need to change the subject of
Just
my
put
poetry.
it in there. Put it in there. Let them know.
I have so many things to say. But yeah, I'm still getting used to, and it's a really fun journey to be okay, push a little farther. Okay, I don't know you guys in this room, okay, these people I don't know and trust, and maybe they have these thoughts and judgments about my work, and I think that's any kind of getting over the hump of putting your work out there that's so vulnerable. But yeah, I've been really taking advantage of and appreciating opportunities to speak around town. And I'm really proud of my journey of it, because I think 3 years ago I would have been nobody reads only my English teacher from college can read my work. And so yeah, it's evolving, and being here is definitely helpful as well.
For sure. I mean, I would like to circle back and just say that I think that literary citizenship is kind of our version of soft power, and that when you show up for people, they show up for you.
Mm-hmm.
And that similarly with your audience, when you show up for your audience, they want to hear you more, and you're giving them a amuse bouche constantly by being there, right? So yeah, I'm gonna put that out there. Down to some the nitty gritty, and this is more for we'll say more seasoned poets. What are your tactic strategies for submitting, identifying journals or websites, or maybe you don't even do it. I mean, I mean, we have a range of experiences. Independent presses, some of them, and university presses here are published by a very large press, and you have a fantastic benefit of having a publicist and an agent and stuff like that. So I'd love this cross-pollination of information, how we can help each other get out there.
Brad?
I'm going to quote Reginald. I used to complain all the time, my work keeps getting rejected. Blah, 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 blah. And Reginald once cut me off in the middle of one of those whiny moments and said, and he really did speak like this, Brad, publication is one of the few pursuits in which persistence pays off. The alliteration helped me memorize that. And it's true. So it's and for me, it's meant being persistent in getting into those dream journals. I did a terrible thing once. The very day that Southern Review rejected one submission, I looked at how much longer their reading period was open, and it was 72 hours. So I'm okay, Jessica. And I immediately sent her another submission, and she took it. Don't do that. It's a little rude. But, Yeah, just that kind of persistence. I mean, it takes a lot. For me, I hate doing it.
Yes.
I would prefer to have someone like you doing like that work for me. But, I just remind myself, like, I'm the one who has to believe in the work. I'm the one who has to make sure somebody reads it. So.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I'm going to echo you. I also hate it. But I am also blessed to have an agent, 2 agents, and a publicist and an editor and all this. So I understand the privilege in that I've earned. Frankly, I have done the work. My first book, it was really important to me to try to place every poem, which I did. In my second book, I was a little less anal about that, because I knew the work was different, and I knew the work was changing, and I knew I was changing with it, and I wanted to really come with some respect for the journals themselves. There's so many new ones, and for me, before I send a poem anywhere, I want to be invested in the community that it's built. So I just don't want to just be like, well, I have a poem in New Yorker without reading the New Yorker, but without having some sort of relationship with who is being published there and their readership. But persistence, I think, is important, especially as you begin. And, there was one time when I only would publish one poem like a year. And I still feel like I'm in that zone because I write slowly, and I know when I write that poem, like, that's the one. And that one poem will sustain for the year. I'm not saying do what I do, but that I'm offering that as a possibility. Like, you don't necessarily, in this culture where every 5 seconds there's something new, and you feel you feel that heaviness to always be producing, always be, posting. I just want to give you permission to take your time and be patient with yourself, because the worst thing is to publish something that years later, or even a second later, you're like, what the hell was I doing? Why did I do that? You don't want to do that either, so have that permission.
I'll add to, just push through 5 minutes, yes, to push through your imposter syndrome. I mean, I actually don't mind doing all that kind of marketing and submitting things, because I'm convinced that it's just like everyone should be reading me. You may not like it, but you should taste it, right? Yeah. And even if you have to fake it till you make it, I think actually is very helpful and productive to be like, you know what, this person needs to hear it. They need to read it. And even if you don't really, maybe there's so much doubt that is becoming the obstacle, you can leap it for 5 minutes to hit that send button. And you never know what happens. It could be the thing that then is the dialectic that affirms that work. And putting yourself out there is, of course, subjecting yourself to rejection, but there are rewards for that risk, right? You were going to say something, Les?
Oh, I was just going to say that I think that having everybody should just add Daniel on Instagram and get his email after this, because 2 things. One, he is persistent, as he says, and he's very open about it. And I think that openness has always helped me too, because I see this wonderful poet who I admire, who has done incredible work, and he'll literally post, "Oh, I just got rejected by this," whatever, and I'm like, okay, well, if he's still getting rejected, then mine stings a little less too. And also Daniel's really involved in all of the presses. He knows what's coming up, and there's not a week that goes by that there's not one in my inbox. Right?
He's amazing.
Pushing us to
organized all of this.
So
he's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just speak to that. For me, it's part of my literary practice to kind of to uplift and to amplify, and because I think that everyone deserves to hear y'all. So. Yeah, I'm going to keep on trying to raise the water and do that. Final minute, I'm just going to ask, writer's block. How do you stay engaged with poetry when life be lifin'?
I'm struggling with that right now as I'm going through that transition, and I've opened the new business. It's been very difficult to stay in it. But I will, and I keep harping on this, but I will quote Daniel to just keep reading it, and being immersed in it, I think helps a lot. Even being here today has already kind of, I feel like, kind of renewed my my spirit in poetry. So making yourself be available and be in it, and keeping reading it, I think is a big help.
I would organize little residencies for myself. I would like book a hotel room and trap myself there and write and have sex. And the two went well together. So I think that you should do that.
That's
It's
brilliant.
really useful.
Yeah, sounds absolutely.
Sometimes I just need to get out of my immediate domestic and work life so I can think fresh. And kind of pathetically, I often feel very liberated in an airport and on a plane. It's like, if I've got a notebook, no one's going to talk to me. And that's just fine. So, yeah, I just took a trip to New York. I wrote 3 drafts. I had been dry for months.
Yeah.
Which was great.
Try.
Yeah, for me, it's
Get wet.
the worse things get. The worse things get, the better my poetry gets, and the more my poetry gets. So the horrors,
Use up.
they keep coming, and the poetry keeps flowing.
Keep yourself lubed.
Yeah. Thank God.
It's important.
But yeah, no, I mean, I write the most through the hardest times, and I can't really resist. And I often like do it instead of my job. I'll be like in the middle of a work day, and I'll be like, well, this fucking sucks, and I'll write a poem instead of actually doing the work that sucked. But it's helpful for me to, it's like an outlet, instead of going to go do whatever destructive or have a drink or whatever, writing poetry. So it's actually, when I'm having a really nice time in my life, I write less poetry, but it hasn't really been a problem lately. So.
Okay, we're going to talk about that.
Well, I guess that's all the time we have.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for attending. I want to thank our panelists again for being here and sharing their fantastic work. Go upstairs and buy their books, or come up here and chat with them, follow them on the social media, even their secret social media accounts like Polly's. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel.
Big group reading it.
Let's take a